A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus told his disciples a parable. Can a blind person guide a blind person? Will not both fall into a pit? No disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own? How can you say to your brother, "Brother, let me remove that splinter in your eye," when you do not even notice the wooden beam in your own eye? You hypocrite, remove the wooden beam from your eye first. Then you will see clearly to remove the splinter in your brother's eye. A good tree does not bear rotten fruit, nor does a rotten tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. For people do not pick figs from thorn bushes, nor do they gather grapes from brambles. A good person, out of the store of goodness in his heart, produces good. But an evil person, out of the store of evil, produces evil. For from the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus.
This past Thursday, the Gospel for that particular day was from Mark, and today is from Luke. So it featured Jesus saying, if your hand or your eye or your foot is your problem, if your hand or your foot or your eye causes you to sin, then cut it off. Better for you to enter life, eternal life, with one hand or one foot or one eye than for you to be thrown into Gehenna fully intact. Obviously, he was speaking in hyperbole, exaggeration. But Jesus left out the one part of the human body that's often the worst culprit for causing sin. What do you think that part of the body is? The mouth, the tongue. And so the focus today is on the tongue in both the first reading and the gospel. The tongue has many muscles and nerve endings and taste buds. We use it for taste and for eating. It warns us if something is too hot or too cold or spoiled. We need it, obviously, to chew food and, of course, for speaking. It's one of the busiest parts of the body, you might say, and some people think that it's the most powerful muscle in the body. So the readings today, the first reading from Sirach and the Gospel, are referred to the mouth, the tongue. And so I'd like to address that from 2 points of view. The tongue as a sword and the tongue as a symptom. First, the sword. If you think back over the past day, the past 24 hours, there's probably any number of people that we've encountered, perhaps touched to a handshake or a pat on the back. But how many more people have you and I touched with our words over the last day or so? What we say can be much more powerful and longer lasting than anything we do. Anything we do with our fist or our legs or any other part of the body. We can physically assault a person and the bodily wounds will eventually heal. But if we verbally abuse someone, the words can cut into places deeper than the physical body. They can cut right into the heart and the soul of a person, and those wounds don't heal easily. We've all experienced that in different ways. Only once in my life do I ever remember my mother telling me an outright lie. She would occasionally say to her 10 children, famous line, "Sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never hurt you." Remember that? It's a lie. Because we know the terror of the untamed tongue. If you were to steal money from another person, you can give it back, maybe with interest, and that person can be made whole again, more or less. But what if we steal a person's reputation, his or her name, good name, or bad name even some, but with fake news or real news even, on social media or personally, directly, that's meant to destroy. We can't call back the words we've posted or said as they continue to travel to places we never dreamed of. The words get out of control. And so the book of Sirach today says in the very next chapter that we hear after this reading, "Many have fallen by the sword, but many more by the tongue." The tongue can be a sword. And Jesus basically says, don't cut your throat with your sharp tongue. So that's the first point I'd like to make. The second point is this: the tongue is also a symptom. The tongue is an indicator, can be an indicator of the state of a person's physical health. That's why doctors and especially dentists check it out. But the tongue is also an indicator of our spiritual health. Today's reading from Sirach and the concluding words of the gospel, "From the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks." So how we speak about others is a symptom, a pretty good indicator of what's happening in our hearts. And Jesus, the divine physician, says today that he can look into our hearts by what we say with our mouths. And so as we approach Lent this week, the readings call us to look at our speech and also where that speech comes from the heart. And so Lent is a time to look within at the state of our hearts. Are we trying to, identify and clear the speck, the splinter from another person's eye and missing the log, the plank in our own? What's the condition of our hearts? Is it a Christian heart or is it a self-absorbed heart? So many things that we could consider. We'll know what our heart is like through the things that come out of our mouth expressed in our speech. From the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks, Jesus says. So if we give our heart to Jesus and then speak from the heart to the best of our ability, enlightened by Jesus, then we will speak from, and what we say from the heart, we will say basically the right thing, because it may not be the most popular thing or the most elegant thing or the most politically correct thing, but it will be the right thing, because our words will carry the word of the Lord if our hearts reflect Jesus in our words. So these readings today give us a little Lenten homework assignment to think about early on. At the end of the Mass today, everyone will receive a nail, if you wish, at the end of the Mass, as a reminder of doing something for Lent. And perhaps when you come for ashes on Wednesday, you receive the ashes on your head. But ashes doesn't necessarily mean I'm a Catholic. It means I'm a sinner, and I want to do something about that. It's like there's a little sign you can put on your head, sinner. That's what the ashes really mean. And so one of the ways, that we can sin is especially in our speech, and trying to do the best we can to have a heart that's purified and a heart that's in tune with Jesus, so that the words we speak are the words of the Lord.